Good morning and welcome to Saturday's special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The word diversity seems to have been lost in its daily usage. It's good to celebrate diversity, but celebration of diversity at the cost of dividing people is not welcome. And the way diversity is being used nowadays leaves much to be desired. As far as diversity as a concept is concerned, nobody can deny that diversity is the beauty of life and the beauty of nature. If all the flowers in a garden were of the same color, the garden would look monotonous, boring. By the variety of the colors, the difference of the fragrances, lends an exotic charm. And that's what also life is about. But the way we see it sometimes does dishearten. Inclusion, yes. Diversity, yes. But promoting diversity as a cult is something to be abhorred at. I remember when I came to Canada way back in 1999, I was invited to the board of Mississauga Board of Trade and I found myself to be the only Indian over there. It set me thinking, and then in the course of my discussions with my colleagues, I think that the Indians by and large were not interested because spending time on board or doing a voluntary job would take them away from their task of earning money. But to blame the Board of Trade for not having the directors on the board, thus showing their disregard for diversity, would have been wrong. They didn't hesitate a second before inviting me on the board. And not only that, there were about half a dozen senior pale laying, housing, heritage Mississauga. All of them invited me, and I was on the board. I was possibly the first Indian to be on the board of Mississauga Board of Trade, the first Indian to be on the Heritage Mississauga, and then as the chair of the Ethnic Press Council, I found that diversity was being promoted for purposes other than celebrating diversity. It was being promoted to cull favor. And now, when I see people saying that the jobs should be given the basis of diversity, that in case there is no black and brown person in the office, you must have somebody from that. Then I'm reminded of what has happened in India, where reservation created a class of non deserving. They knew that they had got the reservations, they'll get the jobs, they'll get the promotions, whether they deserve or not. So a cult of incompetence developed. And promoting diversity the way USA and all Canada are doing is promoting inefficiency. And not only inefficiency, they are promoting division in the civil society. And there's a political reason for that. When people are divided, you rule. When people fight on the ordinary things, then by showing your preferences, you can sway them and be in perpetual rule. The old concept, the British concept of divide and rule. Here, division has become a more refined tool. Imagine, and then what role does a token display of diversity show? On the board of, for example, on the board, there are 13 members, for example, and you have two members from different color. One is brown, the other is black. The rest all are white. Even if the voting takes place, can these two affect? No. But if they were there because of their competence, they could make an effect. They could effect some changes because then the people listen to them. Here they are taken as being foisted on the board. And there's just a show of regard and respect. But in reality, they know that they may not be competent. The same is in a job place. A person goes to gets a job because of his competence. He'll be respected, he'll be listened to. And as I said, the classic case of India, where there is undeserving got jobs, promotions because of being scheduled caste, is that myth, what they call the affirmative action. Affirmative action should be positive action, not aim at creating division or destroying the unity of the people. And then now two more things have come up in USA, for example. They show to what stupid extent can this promotion of diversity go. In the House of Representatives, a new office for diversity of inclusion is opening. And that's the latest sign that identity politics continues to march towards through the institution. The same is happening here. You appoint a judge, and I remember when the first Asian judge was appointed, people were gaga that the first time, little forgetting that the guy was appointed because he deserved to be a judge. Nobody is doing him a favor. Identity politics destroys the initiative, saps the growth, and creates resentment. And the proponents of this destructive definition of diversity successfully preclude any criticism by accusing anybody who raises objection of being racist. I'm saying that diversity creates division, but suppose a white guy, an Anglo-Saxon, was saying that, they'll immediately say, well, he's a racist. He's suffering from xenophobia. Luckily, they can't blame me for that because I don't promote myself. But if a white guy does it, God save him, if there's God. And that's why the criticism of Trump and others, because they were blamed, condemned, and guillotined for being racist and xenophobic, which they were not. Yes, the people who propose race conscious practices are in fact really the ones who make decisions based on caste. Now imagine elections in US took place and they were saying there should be no discrimination against women, no gender discrimination, and no color discrimination. But they select the vice president candidate based on these two reasons, color and gender. So, what is that? Would it not fuel issues? You see, you cannot accept the politician's proposals, premises, and language. The same thing happened in the US Army. West Point cancelled classes for a day so cadets could discuss diversity and inclusion and be lectured on toxic masculinity. Now imagine, when you're fighting a war, you are fighting for your lives. And as Macaulay would put it, for the temples of your gods and ashes of your fathers. At that time, to create a division is absolutely ridiculous. I remember the Britishers in Indian Army had created divisions based on the ethnicity. Gorkhas, Rajputs, Jats, Sikhs. And ultimately, these had to be demolished. And government start to it. That, for example, the Sikh regiment can have non-Sikh officers. And they have. Gorkha regiment would have non-Gorkha officers. Famous Field Marshal Manekshaw was a Gorkha colonel, basically. So imagine it when I hear that a leading senator, for example, Warren, called for race conscious laws. Now we say the laws should be the same for everybody. And here's a senator who is demanding race conscious laws. And let me tell you, what some third politician says in Washington would be repeated tomorrow here in Ottawa. Because they think that whatever is said and done in USA is possibly the oracle of Delphi, not to be disputed. And I'm sure somebody from NDP or Liberal is going to say, well, we should make the changes in the law so they're race conscious. Even already, if the black or brown is arrested, they say, well, they are being profiled. They are seemingly discrete events, but they are part of the pattern. Diversity may be outwardly sold as the hope that the world has for a diverse country. Canada, India, USA. These are basically diverse countries. Now, Australia and New Zealand are also becoming diverse. And they should afford equal opportunity for all. But equal does not mean preferential opportunity. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of this color-blind promise, however. It mandates numerical proportion in schools and in employment. And yes, make no mistake, eventually laws would take cognizance of person's color, race. If there is a law against helmets, against for the use of helmets, there'll be exemptions made, and they have been made, irrespective of the danger to the people. Hard hats, same thing. They are security for the construction industry, and there are people who objected to the hard because of the religious reasons. Yes, but to institutionalize it, if an individual objects, I can understand it. But if you institutionalize that difference, that is creating heartburning. And then I already see in Canada, there's a cultural party which is all the time crying for the Anglo-Saxons who are being neglected because those votes are sure to go to somebody who deserves. But the votes of the browns and the blacks, the votes of the Sikhs and the Muslims must be quoted. And even if you have to violate the international decorum and the international diplomacy, so be it. As a matter of fact, this talk of diversity being foisted, being forced in educational institutions, in jobs, on boards, is self defeating. And it's going to harm those sections of society for whom it's being done. And the proponents of this destructive mix successfully preclude any criticism by accusing anybody who objects, by calling them racist. And really, believe me, this tactic works wonders. And it works wonders especially on the elected officials of all parties, liberal, conservative. They then vie with each other as posing as the champions of diversity. Same is in the liberals and democrats in USA. And result is they are deaf and mute to the reality of the situation. Those who understand the danger should be completely undeterred by this tactic. However, Unfortunately, those who propose race conscious practices are the people who make the decision based on race. We have got to reject the premise. If we have any chance of making these countries, these won't call them diverse countries, I'll call them pluralistic countries. We have got to demand that the people be selected because of their talent, not because of their race, not because of their origin, not because of their sexual orientation. And they should be legally treated according to their adherence to the law. We have seen historically from 1965 to 1865 to 1877, the Reconstruction era ended completely in 1896 when the infamous separate but equal imposition was made in Brown versus Board of Education. Similarly, the Civil Rights Act ended in the Plus era in USA and gave hope of finally attaining color-blind laws and practices. Luckily, this victory was quickly reversed. You have got to ensure that the identity politics is in fact dividing the countries. See what's happening in India, what's happening in Pakistan, what's happening in USA, and likely to happen in Canada. As a matter of fact, the white establishment, led by the wealthy Ford Foundation, panicked when North and Western cities reacted to the civil rights era. You remember that? They were riots. So they began to put in practice what they should be temporary race conscious procedures with the hope to buy peace. Half a century has passed, and those temporary measures have become more entrenched at the highest level. Can it go any higher than the House of Representatives, where they have an office of diversity and inclusiveness, or the West Point, where the finest army is trained? You know, basically, the so called bias training has already destroyed the corporate life, and now it's reaching the army as well. So, you have got to ensure that all this talk of disparity, discrimination, xenophobia, toxic masculinity that is prevalent in the mainstream society are really not in the interest of the people and in the interest of the country. I was amazed to see that the Committee of the House Administration in US House of Representatives is presenting a diversity plan. And what shall that plan include? Policies to direct and guide House employees officers to recruit, hire, train, develop, and retain a diverse workforce. What stupidity! Why not simply say to hire, train, develop, advance, promote, and retain relevant, talented workforce? That's what it should be rather than diverse workforce. Then they want to evaluate the diversity in the house employing officers. So, if this effort means that all Americans, no matter what the background, will hear about the employment opportunities, it would be worthwhile. But it's difficult to see, however, that this does not turn into numerical hiring quotas the way it happened in India. For example, now, as per the Supreme Court order, 49.5% of the jobs are reserved, some for the scheduled castes, some for the scheduled tribes, some for the weaker sections of society, as if that is a qualification. You're right. In Canada, I'm amazed when I see visible minorities would be given preference. If you certify whether you belong to visible, isn't that a negation of being talented? Isn't that a negation of equality before law? When you say you need race conscious laws in education, in employment, in entrepreneurship, then you are destroying the very basis of an egalitarian society where everybody is equal. You are making some people more equal than the others. And I remember businessman Andrew Yang respond to Elizabeth Warren this stupid behavior. Elizabeth, with respect, we can't regulate any racism with a whole patchwork of laws that are race specific. The laws, the rules have to be absolutely neutral and geared to the people. The selection has to be geared to the people and the talent and the capability, not to the name, not to the color, not to the race. As a matter of fact, be diverse and you shall prosper. Promote diversity by actively disregarding talent and you are destroying the country. So, possibly, this so called diversity promotion is in fact destruction oriented, division oriented. You have a choice. Make it. Make it and destroy your countries by accepting diversity preferences or by making everybody equal in law, in deed, and in practice. Think about it. Thank you.